Six Flags Over Texas is a theme park located in Arlington, Texas. This park has been open for 60 years now and continues to bring the fun and thrill to the guests at the park. While this park isn't as good or big as the other theme parks like Disneyland, Universal, or SeaWorld Orlando, back then this park was treated just as good. It was the shining star of Texas and was one of the best theme parks in the United States. Sadly though, this theme park hasn't aged very well. People have forgotten what this small little theme park has done for the theme park business, and how without it, our future would have never been the same. So it's time to tell a story of a small little theme park born in Texas, created by a man who just wanted to have a theme park like Disney close to home, and how as time changed, this really affected the United States and theme parks in general, and became a big movement he never saw coming. It's time to see the history of Six Flags Over Texas.
How do you do, everyone? This is Hank Weaver. For the past year, this signature has announced the opening of Disneyland, the show. Now, it announces the opening of Disneyland, the place.
The year was 1955, and at that time, a new theme park was opening in Anaheim, California, by the name of Disneyland. Disneyland was a theme park like no other. It was huge, it had tons of rides, and at that time was a technology advancement. While there was carnivals and fairs at the time, this type of theme park has never before been seen. So, lots of guests throughout the entire world went to go visit this brand new theme park. And one of the people visiting this theme park was a man named Angus G. Wynne Jr. Angus G. Wynne Jr. was a Texas real estate developer who went to Disneyland to visit this new so-called magical place. And after going, he really loved it, and it gave him an idea. At the same time, he was trying to find ways to attract more people to visit the area of DFW in Texas. And he decided what better way to attract more people to DFW than adding a theme park. He noticed how people really love theme parks since the opening of Disneyland, and adding one in Texas would attract lots of people to come visit. So he went to the drawing board and started creating ideas for the new theme park in Texas. After going through a lot of ideas, he finally settled on one. He would base the theme park on the history of Texas. Since Angus has grown up in Texas since he was little, he decided what better way to honor Texas than a theme park themed after it. And he came up with the name for his theme park, Six Flags Over Texas. He named it Six Flags Over Texas after the 6 countries that took over Texas throughout its history. Throughout time, Texas has become 6 different countries, before finally becoming a state of the United States. At first it was part of Spain, then it became part of Mexico, then it became part of France, then it became an independent country called Texas, then it became part of the Confederate States of America, and finally it became the United States. Angus would use these 6 countries to add 6 different lands to his theme park, based on the 6 different countries that took over Texas. He would have shows, rides, and attractions themed to each country. Finally, after everything was planned out, construction began for the all-new theme park coming to Texas.
The sound of fun. The sound of fun surrounds you. Sound of fun surrounds you at Six Flags Over Texas.
Six Flags Over Texas, Six Flags.
On the date, August 5th of 1961, Six Flags Over Texas officially opened to the public. The park's price was a grand total of $10 million to build, and the park opened with 46 attractions. After 1 year of construction and finally opening, the public loved this park. Park tickets cost $2.75 for adults and $2.25 for children, with parking priced at 50 cents. Six Flags Over Texas was also unique when it came to the pricing for their park. They were one of the first parks to use the pay one price model. Essentially how the model works is you pay one price to ride everything inside, unlike some theme parks where you pay one price to go in and then single admissions for each attraction you ride. Even Disneyland, who inspired Angus G. Wynne for this park a lot, still used the pay-as-you-go model. And because Over Texas did this instead, this attracted way more guests to their park. And fun fact, Disneyland actually noticed this, and without anyone noticing, changed their model to the pay one price model too. Overall, opening day was a success, with a park attendance of 8,374, and the general public seemed to actually love the park. Originally, the park was meant to be a temporary moneymaker for the Great Southwest Industrial District to fund other projects and only last a few years. But everyone, including Wynne, was surprised in the park's success, as the park attendance expectation was shattered in the first 45-day season, making it obvious that this park should be permanent. When the park opened, it had a great collection of rides and attractions, and it had many fan favorites. Examples of those is La Salle's River Adventure, which was a boat ride, making it feel like you were part of the French expedition. After the real French expedition that happened in Texas, you'll go up against animatronic Indians and wild animals. Then there was Skull Island, a play area for kids to go on a little boat ride that would take you to a separate island in the park, where you would play around in a skull-shaped rock. Next was the Astrolift, which was a bucket ride. You would sit in a little gondola that would hoist you up in the air and take you across the whole park. It was very gentle, but you got to see the whole entire park, which is why it became a fan favorite. At the time, Over Texas was very small and didn't contain a lot of extreme attractions, so when the park opened, they only had one coaster, and that was Wild Mouse, which was a standard Wild Mouse coaster. It was small, but it was great at the same time. And finally, the last fan favorite in the park was the Skyhook. The Skyhook was an observation attraction, which you would sit in a little cage that would hoist you up 100 feet in the air. Then the tower would rotate slowly 360 degrees, so you could see all of DFW and the whole theme park. Lots of people loved these attractions, and it was a great way to start off a new theme park. But after deciding to make this theme park permanent, Wynne thought it was a good idea to invest in a new attraction that would attract more guests to the park. An attraction never before been seen, and something that would shock the world.
Flags Over Texas, where adventure is exciting and history is delighting. The Spanish flag once waved over the Lone Star State, and in this area devoted to Spain is the log flume ride. Guests ride in realistic fiberglass logs propelled at 10 feet per second by the water rushing through the flume. This thrilling ride is just one of over 75 rides, shows, and attractions offered to delight Six Flags visitors.
The year was 1963. It's been 2 years since Six Flags Over Texas has opened, and the park was running strong. Angus G. Wynne has been doing a really good job running the park, and at the moment, Six Flags Over Texas was the #1 destination spot in Texas. So Angus G. Wynne thought it was time to step it up. Wynne wanted to create a brand new attraction that would be a world's first, something no one has ever seen before. So he called Aero to create a brand new attraction for him in the theme park. The new ride would go in the Spain section of the park. The new attraction will also take place of the original Over Texas attraction, the Conquistadores Mule Pack Ride Coronado Trek. This is a family attraction where you would ride on a mule through a winding path, trying to simulate what the Spanish conquistadores did when they came to Texas. This ride was great and all, but Wynne wanted to innovate Six Flags Over Texas, and sadly this ride had to go. So what was the new attraction? Well, Wynne hired Aero to create a brand new attraction never before been seen. An attraction where riders would sit in a man-made log that would careen down a river and go up and down on hills and drops, as well as splashing you with water along the way. Like I said, this attraction has never before been seen, so Six Flags spent $300,000 for the research and development of this attraction, before finally getting the ride to be built. The ride was named El Aserradero, which is Spanish for the sawmill. Why the sawmill? Well, the ride was themed to a log going to a sawmill, and because it was in the Spain section, what better name for it? El Aserradero officially opened to the public in the year of 1963, and it was an instant hit. No one has seen such an attraction, but yet it was so much fun. In fact, it was so popular, it inspired many other theme parks to do the same and add log flumes to their theme park. For example, Cedar Point, and then later in the future, Disneyland. It was a win-win. Over Texas got the attraction they needed, and Aero started gaining popularity. This innovative attraction paved the way for the amusement parks of the future. Without this ride, we would have not gotten the best family attraction ever created. And this ride continues to remain popular to this day. After seeing the success of El Aserradero, Wynne decided, why stop here? And the era of innovation began for Six Flags Over Texas. The next year, the park got bigger and better with a brand new attraction for the park. This new attraction was a dark ride by the name of the Spelunker's Cave and was created by Aero Development. 4 riders would be seated on a boat as they travel around in a cave full of mysterious aliens called the Spelunkers. This ride was very unique as it was a very original dark ride with an original story, and the general public loved this attraction. To some, it was even considered kind of scary as it was very dark and the music was very foreboding. But overall, it was a great dark ride and a great addition for Six Flags Over Texas. The ride became an instant classic, and the Spelunkers became the mascot of the park. But the innovation didn't stop there. In the 1965 season, Six Flags Over Texas introduced the all-new El Sombrero, which was a chance trapment attraction. This ride has been seen before, but never before going backwards, and never before looking like a Mexican hat. Sadly though, with the addition of El Sombrero, we saw the removal of another Six Flags classic. The Wild Mouse coaster, which became named La Cucaracha, which was currently moved to Mexico, finally had to bite the dust, and El Sombrero took its spot. But even though that coaster would be really missed, El Sombrero was a worthy replacement. But this ride was just the tip of the iceberg. Something much bigger and thrilling was coming for the 1966 season, something that would shock the world.
To Six Flags they raced on a runaway train.
The year was 1966, and Six Flags Over Texas shocked the world once again with their brand new attraction. Introducing Runaway Mine Train. Runaway Mine Train was the first ever mine train coaster, and the first ever coaster to use tubular steel tracks. While the ride wasn't extreme or inverted, it was still very revolutionary for its time period. The ride, once again, was manufactured by Aero, and came at a total price tag of $1 million. On opening day, the ride was so popular, the line almost went to the front gate of the park. People waited hours and hours to ride the brand new attraction, and wasn't willing to leave that line until they rode it. Now while the whole entire ride type was unique at the time, its layout was even more impressive. Towards the end of the ride, the coaster would go into this building, before dropping into a tunnel that took place underwater. Yes, underwater. In the current occupation of where Runaway Mine Train was, there was an attraction named Caddo Lake War Canoes, and Wynne didn't want to destroy another ride. So Aero customly designed the coaster to go underwater so it doesn't affect the Caddo Lake War Canoes attraction. So in result, both attractions got to operate at the same time, without affecting each other's ride experiences. The new coaster was an instant success. It attracted many guests to the park. Plus, Aero's reputation was skyrocketing. More and more theme parks wanted this new coaster model, and before you knew it, this ride started popping up all over the United States, and Aero started making a fortune in their brand new creation. But the biggest takeaway from this all is the fact that Over Texas once again shocked the entire world and inspired them again with a brand new ride never before been seen, and being the most revolutionary theme park at the time. Six Flags Over Texas was in a winning streak, and they didn't want to stop, so the world started wondering, how could Over Texas top this? Or even, will they top this? But sooner than later, everyone got their answer. During the 1966 season, Wynne noticed how successful Six Flags Over Texas really has gone since it opened in 1961. The park started as a small, local amusement park, but now it was just as big and famous as Disneyland. But it made him remember something. The whole reason behind Six Flags Over Texas was to have a theme park close to home. And because people traveled from all over the United States to go to Over Texas, he thought, well, what other states want a theme park close to home too? So he had an idea. What if there was a way to add a second theme park, like Six Flags Over Texas, to another park? It wouldn't be a clone, and it wouldn't be a ripoff. It would be like a really good sequel of the original park, each sharing the same name. That way people recognize it's the same theme parks. And with that, Six Flags Over Georgia was born. Georgia, similar to Texas, was taken over by 6 different countries throughout its history. Now, while 4 of the countries were similar to Texas, like Spain, France, the United States, and the Confederate States of America, 2 of them were different. The 2 different ones was the Georgia flag and the United Kingdom flag. But overall, the concept for the theme park is the same as Six Flags Over Texas, with 6 different areas themed to the 6 different countries. Six Flags Over Georgia officially opened to the public on the date of June 16, 1967. The park opened with 43 attractions, and it was a great collection of rides. First, they had a runaway mine train clone called the Dahlonega Mine Train. The only difference was that it didn't go underwater at the end. Then they had a log ride like El Acerrado at Six Flags Over Texas. And then they had much more similar, but not the same, attractions like Over Texas. They even had a ride similar to the Speelunker's Cave that Over Texas had, but with a different story and a different theme. The new park was a success. People loved how it was like the original, but different at the same time. Over Georgia had sort of clones, and sometimes even rides Over Texas didn't have. For example, the Wheelbarrow, which was a crazy flat ride that Over Texas did not have. Wynne did it again. He surprised the world with, yet again, another brilliant idea. And while it could have been a risky move, it was actually very genius. In fact, Six Flags was the first ever theme park chain. At the time, there was no such thing as a theme park chain, just a specific theme park, like Disneyland, Cedar Point, or just Six Flags Over Texas. But with the introduction of sister parks or a theme park chain, lots of other theme parks got inspired by it. For example, Disneyland, who saw the success in Six Flags Over Texas and Over Georgia, and decided later on in the future to create Epcot. Six Flags Over Texas was looking into the future, and in the next few years, they showed no signs of stopping. The same year that Six Flags Over Georgia opened to the public, also added 2 new rides to Over Texas. Spindletop, which was a spinning rotor attraction, where you get glued to the wall as the floor dropped, was added, plus the all-new attraction Jet Set, which was in the USA section, and was Intamin's first ever attraction. The years after that, Six Flags kept innovating with brand new attractions and shows for the park, such as the Puppet Theater, but the biggest takeaway from those years was the Oil Derrick. The Oil Derrick was a 300-foot tall observation tower, making it the tallest ride at the park at the time. People could go up and see the whole entire DFW area. You could even see Dallas and Fort Worth from up there. And with that, Oil Derrick quickly became the icon for Over Texas. But sadly, with the addition of the Oil Derrick, we saw the removal of another Six Flags Over Texas classic attraction, Skyhook, which was the original observation attraction, was removed and got sent packing to Six Flags Over Georgia, never to be seen again. Everything seemed fine for both parks, and it looked like Six Flags would last forever. But sadly, things don't last forever. And in the year of 1971, Angus G. Wynne made an announcement no one saw coming. Angus G. Wynne has been operating Six Flags Over Texas for 11 years. He's done a really good job at it, but he wasn't getting younger. He knew that eventually he would have to pass the business to somebody else. Somebody had to take the wheel when he was gone. So in 1971, Angus G. Wynne sold the park to the Penn Central Corporation, and now they were the new owners of Six Flags Over Texas. As soon as Penn Central became the new owners, nothing really changed much. The only new thing for the 1971 season was the all-new Big Bend roller coaster, which is a Schwarzkopf roller coaster. It was a great addition, and the park didn't change really much. But then the next year, everything changed. The original theme of the 6 countries slowly started to disappear, as a new area in the park was introduced called Good Time Square, which had nothing to do with the whole country's theme. Parkgoers noticed this and took it as a sign that without Wynne, nothing would ever be the same again for this park. Six Flags Over Texas was changing, and not in a good way. It was getting stripped from its former glory, and everything Wynne did for Six Flags Over Texas started to fade away, almost like a forgotten memory. But what happens next to Six Flags Over Texas? Well, its history is so long that I couldn't fit it into one video, so tune in next week for part 2, where I discuss how Six Flags Over Texas became the park it is now, and how it suddenly changed and wasn't the innovator and shied away from its original idea, completing the story and history of Six Flags Over Texas and showing how it became a turning point for theme parks. Thank you for watching. This is JB Thrills signing out.